huge franchise, it's hard to believe that no one really believed in it, and it was a fight to get the movie made. Number 5, influences. With the two directors' history of stunt work and sharp eye for heart-pounding action and fast-paced fight scenes, John Wick used a unique style of intense movie action, with this particular fight choreography style in the movie often being described as gun fu. Now, gun fu is actually a style of filmmaking which was pioneered by Hong Kong director John Woo throughout the 80s, particularly in movies he directed such as The Killer. So naturally, directors Stahelski and Leach took inspiration from Woo's cinematic style for John Wick. Other influences the directors used include a 1967 crime thriller called Point Blank, as well as a 1970 French crime thriller called The Red Circle, and even more mainstream movies like Lethal Weapon, Die Hard, The Matrix, and Taken. And the whole aspect of the mysterious gold coins, which acts as a currency in the Hitman world, which actually adds to the movie's unique mythology, was inspired by The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, which has a backstory of mysterious gold coins, of which it's the gold coins that gets that story set in motion. But one of the influences that really fascinates me with John Wick is the directors also got inspired by the oddball comedy caper, The Return of the Pink Panther. Well, Wikipedia claims it was Return of the Pink Panther because the movie focused on hired killers being sent after the movie's bumbling lead, Inspector Clouseau. But from my memory, I thought it was the Pink Panther Strikes Again, where all the world's hitmen were on the hunt. Unless I'm wrong and just not up to date with my Pink Panther movies, I don't know. Look, either way, I'm absolutely delighted that one of the influences for John Wick was the Pink Panther. Number 4, no dogs were harmed during the making of this movie. Phew. The shoot for John Wick started in October the 7th, 2013, and lasted a total of 9 weeks. The directors did somewhat struggle with making the movie work, what with its restricted budget and deadline schedule, and felt that many mistakes were made along the way. Now, one thing that is a catalyst of John Wick is the tragic murder of his dog. Now, no one wants to see a dog getting killed on film. I mean, come on, absolutely no one likes it when that happens. But at least with John Wick, it leads to the movie's main character killing all the bad guys. And the dog murder does happen early on, to get it out of the way so the action can now commence. And of course, when we see the dog in its lifeless state, the crew didn't actually hurt a dog, but rather used a stuffed one. You know, a sort of prop dog. However, it was while filming the scene with the stuffed dog that producer Basil Iwanek thought that the movie just wasn't working. But he really got on board with the movie's quirks and absurdity when watching the scene of John Wick interacting with the police after the hit team messed up his house, where he killed them all, to which Wick is almost comically straight-faced. That just really hit a nerve with him and made him realise that, yeah, okay, maybe the movie is working. Number 3, then there was an idea to remove the dog altogether. So test audiences reacted pretty positively to John Wick and were really on board with this violent, action-packed revenge movie. However, one element that wasn't popular with the audience was the death of Wick's puppy. Well, yeah, it's meant to be tough. It's meant to be terrible, so we can believe all the rampaging events that occur afterwards. And honestly, it makes Wick's rampage feel even more satisfying. Like, these people he's hurting really deserve it. They really do, because they hurt his dog. However, Iwanek felt that the puppy situation may alienate audiences and may not actually entirely justify all the carnage that succeeds it. But Reeves and writer Kolstad put up a fight to keep the puppy plot in the movie, with Reeves explaining that John Wick is a hardcore action movie that goes outside the box, and that the movie should be unapologetic, adding, quote, "John Wick kills 80 guys because of a puppy. Fuck you, we're done." Yeah, the puppy element, admittedly, is a hard pill to swallow, but it doesn't put me off the movie, and I haven't known it to put anyone else off from watching it. And as mentioned, it does make seeing Wick kill all these bad guys feel even more justified and satisfying. Number 2, unique deleted scene. So during the editing of John Wick, several scenes were cut down in order to give the movie a punchier flow. This meant shortening some action sequences, and it seems that several other scenes that were cut were extended scenes of John Wick mourning and brooding. It was said that the tighter, condensed, cut-down version of the movie had a better reaction with test audiences than the longer, drawn-out one. Interestingly though, one scene that was cut was to show that a hobby of John Wick's was restoring old leather-bound books, which is fascinating. But sadly, the scene didn't make it into the theatrical cut. But regardless, I kind of like the idea of this otherwise brutal, unstoppable man of action having such a unique hobby of restoring old leather-bound books. It's almost as if John Wick himself is trying to preserve history, and maybe even preserve the beauty of history, as opposed to the dirty, dark, gloomy world that he surrounds himself in. Number 1. No studio wanted to distribute John Wick. Okay, so if you can believe it, there was such little faith in John Wick and disbelief that it will be any good, no movie studio wanted to distribute it. No, they didn't want to touch it. In fact, in one particular screening for potential movie executives to distribute the movie, one of the executives walked out of the screening. Wow. Really? No one liked John Wick. Finally, Lionsgate Films showed some interest in John Wick, particularly their Summit Entertainment division. But even then, there wasn't much enthusiasm, with John Wick being at the bottom of their distribution pile, with the possibility that the movie could even be a straight-to-home video release. Oh god, that's depressing. But regardless, in October 2014, John Wick was released, and it made $86 million on a $20 to $30 million budget, which, although wasn't exactly a knockout success, was still a lot higher than expected, with the movie making a very tidy profit, with the film also being widely praised by audiences and critics alike, who were totally on board with this new action movie mythology. John Wick has now become a huge franchise, spawning 3 sequels and a spin-off streaming series, with the very name John Wick itself now being an iconic name in the pop cultural landscape, right up there with John McClane and Dirty Harry, with the film series even surpassing $1 billion, no doubt making all the executives who originally didn't believe in the movie to now backtrack and say, I always knew that would be a hit. John Wick is a splendid action movie romp, one that gives you a great sense of satisfaction that usually occurs in revenge stories. It almost feels therapeutic seeing Keanu Reeves destroy some terribly horrible people, and thus getting his own twisted justice. So if you're ever down and need to inject a little excitement into your movie diet, then John Wick has you covered. In addition to that, when Keanu Reeves attended the movie's premiere, he attended the screening with Andy, the dog who played his dog in the movie, which is just more proof that Keanu Reeves is the best. It's fascinating, as this was at a time when Keanu Reeves' career was kind of considered done, and that its glory days are over. But along comes John Wick to say no, and it put Keanu Reeves back into the mainstream, with John Wick becoming one of his most iconic characters.